Every American family is now carrying their share of this massive debt burden. You today are paying more for everything and paying higher interest rates on everything because our national debt and deficits are out of control. Hey, welcome, Patriots, to this episode of Common Sense for America. I'm your host and commentator, Bruce Rutherford, and I'm coming to you from Westwood Golf Club in Houston, Texas. Now, today, we'll be discussing the new Department of Government Efficiency, which is creatively shortened to DOGE, to be led by Elon Musk. Now, if you're listening to our podcast, please rate us and leave us a review. Your reviews are a great way for us to get to know you and your story. If you're watching on YouTube and you like what you hear, please like us and subscribe to this channel. Give us your thoughts in the comment section of this site, and we just love hearing from you. All right, now let's get down to business. President Trump's idea for DOGE is badly needed. For the last 8 years, the government has run a deficit of at least $2 trillion per year. $2 trillion per year. Can you believe it? We've reached the congressional limit of $36.1 trillion in debt. One senator recently said, we do not have a revenue problem, we have a spending problem. Now, the current budget, which is set to spend over $7 trillion this fiscal year, already projects a deficit of $1.8 trillion, and it's already over that budget. In the first 3 months of this fiscal year, that's October, November, December, our government overspent its revenues by $710 billion. Now, at that rate, the deficit will be over $2.1 trillion yet again. Our national debt is equal to 99% of our gross domestic product. It hasn't been this bad since World War II. Now, why do I care, you ask? Chronic deficits and total debt of this size increase inflation and interest rates. Now, for lesser countries than the United States, debt of this size relative to their gross national product has led to economic collapse. You today are paying more for everything and paying higher interest rates on everything because our national debt and deficits are out of control. Now, let me put this in perspective for you, Patriots. Every American family is now carrying their share of this massive debt burden. It's about $100,000 per person, $400,000 for a family of four. We feel this debt in every purchase we make. So yes, we do need DOGE, and we need it now. Now, Elon Musk, who is leading DOGE, is famous as a businessman for cutting costs. He originally said he thought he could find $2 trillion in efficiencies in the government. Now, my own review of the U.S. government budget makes me believe it'll be easy to identify more than $2 trillion in efficiencies. But it will not be so easy to implement those savings. Members of the House and the Senate will try to protect their pet projects and programs that they have promised to their constituents. Government department heads and regulators will be loath to part with the programs that they run, which are, their jobs depend on those programs. Some efficiencies will require congressional action to implement. Even the military could be more efficient, and no organization is more difficult to change than the Pentagon. But some savings are painfully obvious. Did you know that our government is sending $82 million per month to the Taliban in Afghanistan? That's $1 billion a year. For what? I can't believe it. The post office, as an example, could be outsourced to save $500 million a year. Congress has routinely spent money on pet projects ranging from a bridge to nowhere in Alaska to the studies of the sex lives of rats. Now, how do we get all this foolishness under control? Musk will recommend cuts to President Trump, who will use his executive authority where he can to cut spending and save money. But that won't be enough. Trump will need congressional cooperation to make significant cuts in the budget, and that will be hard to get. In some cases, entire departments, such as the Department of Education, the Commerce Department, may be shrunk and rolled into the State Department. Non-military government pensions should be converted to 401k plans. I mean, this action alone could save $400 billion a year. But a lot of this is going to take congressional action, which won't be easy, even with a majority held by the Republicans. These aren't just numbers on a page, folks. This is your money being wasted while your family struggles with rising costs every day. You know, you talk about it at the kitchen table. Why are eggs so expensive? Why is milk so expensive? Why is gas so expensive? It's a lot to do with these numbers being out of control. Now, one area that Trump can implement by executive order, which means very fast, is to modernize the procurement process of the United States government. So this antiquated RFP, request for proposal process, takes too long and leaves innovation and best practices unutilized. We need a procurement process and a system that focuses on the best outcome for the operations of government in question and not just the cheapest price for the item in the RFP. In the long run, we need what we have advocated in earlier podcasts and earlier episodes of Common Sense for America, a presidential line item veto authority. 44 states already have it. Why doesn't our president have it? We also advocated a constitutional amendment to say that the House may not appropriate money for any project that benefits less than 3 states. If 2 states want to do a project, they can get together and finance it themselves. We're not going to finance a high-speed train from Los Angeles to Sacramento or from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. We also advocated a constitutional amendment that said no bill may be longer than 100 double-spaced pages, preventing congressmen from hiding spending and projects in a bill that's 2,500 pages long. Now, we all realize that a huge portion of the government budget, 55%, or thereabouts, is non-discretionary. That means it happens no matter what Congress says unless they change the law. This is primarily Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, and the Affordable Care Act, and interest on our national debt, which is the interest on our national debt now exceeds our budget for the entire U.S. military. Now let's break this down piece by piece because these programs affect a huge percentage of American families. Congress knows what to do about Social Security. They just need the backbone to do it. They must gradually raise the age for benefits without affecting people who are already 55 years or older today. Those people wouldn't have a change, but younger people would see an increase in the age for benefits. We must stop paying Social Security benefits to non-citizens while grandfathering those who are already receiving those benefits. We should demand that everyone working in America pay into the Social Security system taxes on their total income, but not receive benefits unless and until they become citizens. Now, we currently invest the $3 trillion Social Security Trust Fund in U.S. government bonds and T-bills. Now, the effective return to the trust fund is only slightly higher than 2.5%. If this trust fund were professionally managed by competent financial managers, it could easily earn more than 7.5% net to the trust fund, tripling the income to Social Security. Common sense says that we should hire a panel of financial advisors like Berkshire Hathaway, Fidelity Investments, T. Rowe Price, Fisher, and others to manage the Social Security fund's money. And we could give them a share of the earnings and still earn dramatically more than 7.5% net to Social Security. Now that's at least a $150 billion increase in the trust fund income per year. Think about that for a moment. $150 billion in additional income just by managing our trust fund more efficiently. Now that's real money that could secure benefits for generations. Realize that 57 million Americans have only or almost only Social Security for retirement. The trust fund is not expected at present to have enough money to pay everyone their full benefits by 2035. So in 2035, we got a real problem coming. Some people, probably the ones who are better off financially, will have their benefits cut if we don't fix this problem. I think we can fix this one, and if we only use our common sense, it's easy to fix. Now, Medicare's Hospital Insurance Trust Fund is expected to be insolvent by the year 2036, according to the latest Medicare trustees report. 97 million Americans rely on Medicare for their health insurance, and it's including me and my wife. Now, that number will increase as the number of older people increases, eventually becoming 23% of the U.S. population. Insolvency of Medicare would be a national catastrophe. Now, here again, Congress has long known what it has to do, but it lacks the political guts to do it. The eligibility age for Medicare must be gradually increased, just like Social Security. We should not give Medicare benefits to non-citizens. And again, the hospital trust fund should be professionally managed. Common sense can fix Medicare, and we must fix it. Now, Medicaid is a program that provides health insurance to the poor and the indigent. The federal government gives 90% of the money the states need to buy medical insurance for the poor in their state. The Congressional Budget Office says that costs for the Medicaid program are expected to rise 60% over the next decade, and get this, to $898 billion, or 2.2% of our nation's gross domestic product. U.S. citizens and permanent residents of the U.S. who are not citizens are eligible at age 65 if their income is 133% of the federal poverty level, which is lovingly just called the FPL. 130% of the federal poverty level or lower. Now, the FPL is $15,000 for a single person and $31,200 for a family of four. There's other numbers in there for smaller families. Costs are increasing steadily as medical costs increase and as politicians expand the program. Again, the way to fix this problem is well known to Congress. What Congress has not considered are economic actions we could take to reduce the number of poor people needing Medicaid. We have advocated a change in the tax laws in earlier episodes that would dramatically benefit the working poor and help them ascend into the middle class and beyond. Now, that change would scrap the current income tax laws and replace all of that with one $50,000 tax exemption per income earner. So you and your spouse would each have a $50,000 exemption. The exemption would increase to $100,000 over 10 years. We would all pay the same tax rate on all currently taxable income above the exemption amount, say a 25% tax rate. In return, there would be no other deductions or exemptions from income. Now, you could file your income tax return on a postcard. If you made $100,000 and you had a $50,000 exemption, you pay 25% of $50,000 or $12,500. That's effectively a 12.5% tax rate. In 10 years, you and your wife would both have a $100,000 exemption. You could make $200,000 a year and pay no income taxes. Now, income tax revenues would actually increase under this plan because rich people would pay a higher percentage of their incomes in taxes, especially on capital gains and dividends. Now, this tax change would be a tremendous benefit to the poor and the middle class, and it would expand our economy dramatically. The percentage of poor people in the U.S. would decline dramatically. Now, this decline in the percentage of poor people would in turn take pressure off Medicaid. Common sense shows us the way. Now, the last part of the budget we must address is the interest on our national debt. Now, today that interest bill is larger than the entire defense budget. With inflation pushing interest rates higher, this bill will only increase. If Congress continues to add to the bill, to this debt, we're running a $2 trillion deficit every year. If we continue to add to the debt, the interest bill will naturally increase. All the things that we have suggested and more must be done to control government spending. But we need significant surpluses to lower the debt and back away from this fiscal abyss that we're staring into right now. Now remember, every dollar we spend on interest is a dollar we can't spend on our military, on our infrastructure, on returning dollars to taxpayers. There are two obvious things we can do to create surpluses that we could use to reduce our national debt. First, look at the giant balance sheet of the federal government for things that we can sell or lease. Some estimates put the size of our balance sheet as much as $186 trillion. It's just massive. On this balance sheet are at least 70,000 empty buildings owned by the federal government. Thousands more are only partially occupied. Selling buildings and consolidating partially occupied buildings into one will produce probably $1 trillion or more of new cash to reduce the debt. The federal government is the largest landowner and owner of land, mineral, and timber rights in the world. Now remember that Lincoln used federal land sales and swaps to finance the Civil War and the Transcontinental Railroad at the same time. Now we can do the same thing today to sell or lease federal land, timber rights, mineral rights to produce trillions to pay down the national debt. Trump's already kind of got this idea percolating. He just hasn't specified how we're going to do it. Now, we regular citizens will not even notice the actions this takes. The government owns some of the most valuable land in the nation, such as the Presidio military base in San Francisco, which could be sold for real estate development for at least $1 billion. The same could be said for beachfront in Florida that the United States military owns. A lot of money could be harvested from this balance sheet. The federal government and its various agencies and the Federal Reserve own billions, if not trillions, of non-government securities. Now, these securities could be sold and the cash applied to the debt, or it could be traded for government bonds and T-bills in private hands, thereby retiring that portion of the national debt. Now, common sense demands that we should sell or lease some of these assets to pay down our debt and reduce our interest expenses. Now, these are real solutions, patriots, solutions that don't require raising your taxes or cutting essential services. Please consider these thoughts and discuss them with your family and friends. Click on the comments section of our site and tell us what you and what your friends and family think about these ideas and what you think should be done about these problems. Now, we love hearing from you. If you're listening to us on a podcast, please rate us and leave us a review. If you're watching on YouTube and you like what you hear, press like and subscribe to this channel. Join us next time. Until then, God bless you and yours, and God bless America.